Welcome to the Back in Time podcast with Kyle and JD, where every week we jump into our DeLorean, cruise to 88 miles per hour, and travel back in time to review our favorite films from all genres and bring you celebrity interviews every single week.
Very good, Lewis. Short but pointless.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
You want me to yank you out of that seat and shake it out of you?
I don't have it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's an imperfect place.
And now, here is your host, Kyle Autry, and his co-host, JD. Welcome back to the Back in Time podcast. I am your host, Kyle Autry, joined as always by my co-host, JD. JD, how you doing tonight, man?
I am fantastic in the heat of summer and ready to get into the great outdoors. I've been tired of being cooped up, ready to see what the Great Lakes have to say to me.
Well, you know what? This guy wanted hot dogs. You know what those are made of, right, JD?
Go ahead and tell us.
Lips and assholes.
There it is.
Guess I like hot dogs and assholes. I can't wait to get into this. But before we do, make sure you guys hit that download button on today's podcast. That will help you never miss an episode. You can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and YouTube. And then while you're at it, drop us a 5-star review. That's going to help us continue to grow this podcast and pick up new listeners every single week. Now, JD, let's travel back to last week. We talked about our top 5 movies of 1984. What kind of feedback did you get from our top 5 episode?
It was a very competitive year. The feedback that I got was, I think your list was probably more on par with what a lot of people were expecting. I had a little bit of some out of left field ones, but nothing but enjoyment. Like, I feel like anytime we do a top 5 list, audience, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all like it, right? And I feel like a big part and enjoyment in doing a top 5 list is the argument and competitiveness that gets to come with, well, that's not number 1, that's not number 2, and there's a lot of discussion to be had, and that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, definitely a lot of really tough choices to pick from for that top 5. That was a tough one to do. And yeah, we appreciate your guys' feedback. Send us a tweet over at Back in Time Pod and let us know what top 5 episode you might want us to do next. Maybe you have a recommendation for something we haven't thought of. I also want to thank you guys for voting on our poll that ended yesterday, or might have been on Wednesday, depending on when you listen to this. But I just asked a simple question. Settle this debate. Is Dick Tracy a good movie? Yes or no? Over 200 votes on that poll topic. Pretty much split 50-50. I would have never guessed 50-50. I don't know. I just thought there was maybe more love for Dick Tracy out there than there is. But I guess that leads me to my question of JD. Is Dick Tracy a good movie? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah. Yup. And yup, through and through. D. Tracy is a fantastic movie. It's a great movie. It's enjoyable as all get up. It's just unique, and I obviously haven't seen it in 10 years, so I think the follow-up question is, audience, should we do this and review it and answer the question, who cares if it's a good movie or a bad movie? Does it hold up?
Well, I think we should do it, and here's my reason why. The last time we did a poll like this, it got a ton of votes too, and that was for Super Mario Brothers, which I think was probably one of our top 5 most downloaded episodes ever. And I think this one's going to do a lot of downloads too. Obviously, we'll get into this when we cover Dick Tracy, but JD, where do you think some of the hate comes from?
I really feel like some of it probably comes down to some casting choices. I think that some of it's a long movie too, and it's very drawn out, and it's very in the style of the original comics. So I think a lot of people don't necessarily respond positively to that. Whereas I come from an appreciation stance where it's like, that is so cool to be drawn back into a time and an age that's far removed from 2019.
Yeah. I actually found out it was the first ever comic book movie that Disney made. And I think they put it out under one of their tiers of Disney's. I think they might put it under like Touchstone or something, but it is a Disney movie.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of stuff to get into with that movie. I started to go down the rabbit hole a little bit today, and I was like, ooh, I should stop because I'm going to need to save this for the podcast when we actually go through it. But I think that's going to be a really fun one. And we finally get into some Al Pacino, and I can get into some of my, whoa. And just really...
do that again. That was fantastic.
Whoa.
Dude.
Nah. Dude looks like a lady in our archives.
No, I'm sorry, dude. Do that one more time. Let the ladies and the gentlemen, if you're so inclined for Kyle's big sweaty knees.
Whoa.
Ooh, shivers.
Deep in your loins, huh?
Shiver me timbers.
Well, let's talk about your blog, man. What's going on over at backintimepod.com this week?
I'm toying around with flipping the script and doing a top 5 Charlies, because we've done top 5 worst Charlies. So who are the Charlies that don't suck?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't fully know either. I mean, we've got Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen definitely sucks hard.
Do you think so?
Yeah, he's kind of a dickhead.
I mean, all things considered, with his winning, yeah, maybe. But I always thought he was quite an accomplished actor, and being the fact that on the good graces of the top 5 Martins blog that we did last week with Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen, it would only be appropriate that we give a little shout out to the little Charlie boy, little Charlie horse.
Little Charlie horse, little Charlie Conway. We'll see where it goes. I can tell you top 5 is it top 5 favorite Charlies or top 5 least favorite Charlies?
No, so there's been a least favorite Charlies.
Okay, you already made that list. I remember that one. Yeah, he was number 1.
Yeah, obviously, he was Charlie Conway is just such a, like, do you ever put a shoe on and then there's a rock in your shoe and you're like, what is this? I just want to tear my shoe off and burn it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Charlie Conway is a rock in your shoe. He's a horrible man. Hate him.
Yeah.
I want good Charlies. I want to find the good Charlies. I want to find Charlie Murphys. I want to just go establish those one. Who are they? Where are they?
Now, can I ask you, and we probably have talked about this, but is your hatred of Charlie Conway, does that extend to Joshua Jackson, the actor? Do you also dislike him?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't dislike him. I think he's fine in Dawson's Creek. I think he does a great job in Urban Legend.
Okay.
And I love the in-movie reference with "I don't want to wait." I hate that song. So I will give him props to what he's accomplished as an actor.
Yeah.
But what he brought to the table as Charlie Conway is essentially a when you take the garbage bag out of the garbage can, and the garbage can still stinks.
God.
And you're like, I'm throwing away the garbage. Why is Charlie Conway still in there?
Uh-huh.
Hate him.
Okay. Hey, can I give you one Charlie that I definitely don't hate?
Please.
Charlie Corsmo, the little kid from Hook and Dick Tracy.
Look at you. Full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also in our archives with Can't Hardly Wait, when he was all grown up.
All grown up like a mofo. That was a great episode.
It really was. And we have to get into some Charlie Corsmo at some point and maybe do like a Where Are They Now episode, because he has gone on to do bigger and better things. He's quite the academic scholar. So that would be a fun episode to get into. But let's not waste any more time, man. Why don't we dive into the great outdoors here and do a little intro. So this is a 1988 American comedy film directed by Howard Dutch, written and produced by John Hughes. It stars Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Stephanie Faracy, and Annette Bening in her feature film debut. The film follows 2 families spending time on vacation in Wisconsin. Now, JD, I guess when I was a little kid, I never realized that this actually took place in Wisconsin. I guess I always just pictured, like, I don't know, maybe like Minnesota, someplace like that. Probably more Michigan than Wisconsin, but I mean, is that something you picked up on as a kid? Did you realize this was a Wisconsin movie?
I did not, and which is unique because being from Illinois, same as you from Indiana, Wisconsin's our neighbor upstairs, and it just never seemed as glorious as, a Michigan or a
Right.
Minnesota. Always second place. I mean, obviously it's better than Iowa, and nobody wants to talk about Ohio.
Right. Ohio, man. If they didn't have Cedar Point, they would completely suck. But yeah, Ohio, kind of like I don't know, the stain on our underwear in the Midwest here.
That's so interesting because I love the quote that, and feel free to kick me in the ankle here, Kyle, but Indiana is essentially a failed Illinois.
Ooh, that hurts a little bit.
Right in the breadbasket. I know it.
Right in the old breadbasket. Yeah, in one thing that I found out doing some research here is that it wasn't filmed in Wisconsin, although that's where they say it takes place. It was actually shot on location in Bass Lake, California, which is a small resort town, Yosemite National Park. And they filmed there for about 3 weeks. And if you remember and I'll talk more about this in the episode and get more in the specifics, but the restaurant that they go to where he eats the 96-ounce steak is actually a restaurant that you can go to in that small resort town. Unfortunately, it's not the same exact building because that one burned down at some point.
Oh, no.
But if you go there and you find this place, and I'll drop the knowledge in the episode of what it's called and where it's at, they have memorabilia and stuff like all over the place. Next time I'm in that area, and I have been to Yosemite, I wish I would have known this then, I would have made it a point to stop there and eat some steak in memory of John Candy.
Hey, Kyle, what is the biggest steak you've ever eaten? And don't say penis.
Okay. That was my choice. I would say 28-ounce steak, maybe? And that's a big old boy.
That is a big boy. Now, was that
don't think I finished
pleasure?
it, though, to be honest.
Was that just like you're grilling up steak at home, or was that like a contest that you participated in?
No, that was at a steakhouse in probably around the time I was in college. And my parents were like, order what you want. I'm like, I could eat the ass off of a bear right now, so I'm going to go with this big giant steak right here. Yeah, I think I got about halfway through and I was like, I'm getting the meat sweats. I'm going to stop. Because it's not the steak that'll do you in, it's the giant loaded baked potato and like drinking 4 Coca-Colas. That's what'll do you in on those steak challenges there.
4 Coca-Colas.
I can drink with the best of them. I will put some fluids down. I was waiting for a joke there. I thought you had something.
I was going to let the audience gurgle on your obviously pro-homosexual.
See what you did there.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Kyle, just drink it all down.
Drink it all down. Well, The Great Outdoors earned a mixed response from the critics. In Rotten Tomatoes, it has it at about a 40% rating. The film would gross upwards of $43 million worldwide at the box office, recouping all of the budget and some. Of course, if you want to hear more about the box office numbers and critic response, go ahead and check out our teaser trailer episode, which came out on Tuesday, and give that a listen. We'll get into it in more detail there. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. We've got our buddy Pat from the Paranormal Pativity podcast coming on to join us for the full review. We will talk to you in a minute.
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel.
This is Paranormal Pat from the Paranormal Pativity Podcast. Each episode, we dive into the paranormal and the supernatural. So please come over and join me on any of the platforms you can find your podcast. Was that a ghost or just your imagination? Let's discuss it.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, we're back from the break and joined on the podcast tonight by our good buddy Paranormal Pat. Pat, welcome back to the show, man.
good to be back. I've been looking forward to this episode for a while now.
Some might say you're the sixth-time guest of the Back in Time podcast.
You can't see it, but I'm doing a spin-a-rooney right now.
With the hand in front of your face?
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Man, yeah, I was telling JD, like, I like was texting with you. I was like, I couldn't even remember all the episodes you've done, but in our archives, he's been on for Rocky, Ready to Rumble, Top 5 Favorite Wrestlers, a Wrestling Stories episode, and then he did one with me, Fighting with My Family review that we did on the Rocks movie. So, yeah, I mean, it's always good to have you on, man. What's going on over at the Paranormal Pativity podcast? What do you got going on?
Well, I just recorded an episode on The Ferryman. I kind of got the inspiration after seeing Annabelle Come Home, because that was pretty much my favorite part of that whole movie.
Nice.
It was supposed to have Phantom Dark Dave and Jenny Dreadful on from, what is it? Dave's
Pop
Spectacular Popcorn
I don't
Extravaganza
know.
podcast.
I can't remember the name anymore. It slips my mind. I think he should just change the name to Dave's Aladdin Podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
That seems more appropriate at this point.
Yeah, Dave's Prince Ali Podcast.
that actually fits better. I like that.
Dave's Postal Podcast. They were supposed to be on with me, but then my sister gave birth, like I was telling you before we started last Friday, so I kind of canceled on them, and then they weren't able to do anything for the rest of the week. So I was like, well, I got to throw something together. But yeah, I just did an episode on The Ferryman, which just actually went up yesterday.
Okay. Yep, and I shared that up on our page, so if you're listening to this and you haven't checked out that episode, just go over to our Twitter page. There's a link right there, or you can just go to Pat's page and you'll find it there as well at ParanormalPat64.
Yes, sir.
Off the top of my head. Yep, there we go. Cool. Well, man, we were texting back and forth a while ago, just like going back and forth with Great Outdoors lines. And I was like, dude, you have to come on for this episode.
Oh yeah, and I was excited. As soon as you mentioned that you guys were going to do it, that's when it was like, oh man, I've always wanted to try the old 76er. And then next thing you know, it's like all the quotes started coming. I was like, yep, got to be on.
Yep. So yeah, this is going to be a really fun episode. But no, we always do this on the teaser trailer episode. We talk about first memories. Do you remember the first time that you watched The Great Outdoors?
I remember my dad showing it to me. I don't remember going to the theater to see it. I would have been 6 when it came out, but I do remember. I believe my dad saw it, or actually, you know what? I take that back. I think it was my uncle. Yeah, my uncle Rick showed me this movie. Okay, and then I think I remember saying, "Hey, yeah, we need to watch this movie," and then we watched it together. That's actually what happened.
Okay, so would that have been like a Blockbuster rental then, or
probably like Blockbuster?
Okay,
I think it was shortly after it came out. Yeah, at a theaters, I should say.
Very cool. All right, well so what we'll do here is we'll dive right into things here, and we'll start this off with a little yakety yak. Don't talk back here as the family arrives at the lodging area. They've got a family like break before they exit the car, and then they open the doors, just drilling the trees around them. And Chet says he's going to go inside and check them in. JD, let's start by talking about Chet Ripley here. He's played by the late, great John Candy. You know my affection for him. What do you think about him here in the role as Chet Ripley?
He is Chet Ripley. He's every role that he's ever played, but he most certainly, like, I echo you both to your excitement about this film and everything about that we're about to dig into, but this is perfect. It's perfect, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And then we meet the rest of the family too. We got Connie, Buck, Ben. I like Buck and Ben. I mean, anytime somebody's name is Buck, just makes me smile a little bit. And the fact that, you know, we've got Uncle Buck, we've got Buck from Married with Children. Like, there's a lot of good Bucks out there.
Another top 5 Buck list coming up.
That's what I was thinking, JD. I mean, it sounds better than a Charlie list that I know you'll hate putting together. So, top 5 favorite Bucks.
My name is Buck, and I am here to... That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I love it. So Chet gets to the service window to sign in, and he reads a sign that says, "For prompt service, blow me." Yeah. Interesting service. So he blows on it a couple times, and then this terrifying dog just jumps out, starts barking at him. Ben's like, what's wrong with that dog's face? And Wally's like, it's porcupine quills. Loves porcupines, hates people. And she's in heat. Too bad you're not a dog, huh? And then Chet's like, man, who would not like a place like this? And Wally kind of mumbles under his breath, well, you could get the shits from the well water. So we have our first Robert Prosky sighting here as Wally. JD, we last talked about him in Mrs. Doubtfire, which is in our archives. What do you think about him here as the crazy lodge owner, Wally?
I mean, if you own a lodge or if you're working in a lodge, in every movie that we've ever dealt with, from Vacation to, which we haven't done Vacation, but
yeah,
I think you have to be crazy. From Psycho to Vacation, if you are in a motel, a hotel, or a lodge, you are wacky tobacky.
Yeah, he definitely fits the bill. I'll say that. I love him here in this. Now, let's keep chugging along here. So we cut to a shot of a car pulling up. It says Roman 1. And we have our first shot of Cousin Roman, played by Dan Aykroyd. Pat, we've only done one episode with Dan Aykroyd. That was our Ghostbusters episode. What do you think about him here as Cousin Roman, the fast-talking investment guru from the big city?
I think he played this part perfect.
Yes.
And he's such a great actor, like to see like how he's that dorky, naive in Ghostbusters, but now he's this confident, shy talking, character. What I like too is like how, back up a little bit, when they were showing them talking at the lodge and everything, how they showed the car, and then but they don't show the family, and the music changes, and then they go back to Chet, and then also they show the car again. Like they're like building it up, the suspense of who Roman is.
Yeah, in like a lot of John Hughes movies, he kind of has his own like score. So every time you see him, it plays that like little jingle. It's just like, it really sets the tone for him. And then he just pops out and he's like, what a gas. It's like, I love, so there's this version of Dan Aykroyd, which he also plays in like Tommy Boy and a bunch of other movies where he's like fast talking guy. And then there's like Conehead Dan Aykroyd, where he's like, maintain low cones. Like, he's got a couple different characters that I just love.
Yeah, he got some good range.
But there's definitely a lot of Ray Stantz in this role too, and we'll talk about that as we kind of go along here. But let's listen to our first clip here of Chet and Connie, and they're playing a little fashion police here as Cousin Roman and the family shows up to surprise him.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Stop it, Chet.
You know the kids are at the lake.
Hey, come on,
What?
Chet, stop. What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything.
Honey, no.
Oh, we got the house to ourselves. Hello. Oh, no, what happened? I'm sorry.
Hey, I just don't
I'm
feel
so
like this.
sorry.
Can you understand that? I'm tired, I'm stinky. What are you doing? Come on.
I know, we got the house
What
by
about the
ourselves.
kids? I
All right?
don't
What
care.
about the kids? They're doing late.
Don't do this. Let's go to the bedroom then.
Why? That's the great thing about being in the North Woods, Con.
What are you feeding me now?
Come on.
What are
You can run around
doing?
here naked as a bear and not worry about running into anybody.
Is that right?
Yes.
Really?
You think it's possible that we could play Fashion Parade? Please.
I don't want to play fashion parade.
Why?
You get to wear the good outfits.
Oh, no, I'll let you wear them.
You will?
Now, you will be Shilana. The oak tree woman.
Oh, I love it when I'm the oak tree woman.
Temptress of the woods.
Yes.
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 Yes, and I will be Bert. A guy named Bert.
I love it when you're big. You're always so nice.
Or I could be Smokey's cousin Horny.
He has endurance.
Yes, she does. I'll do it. Anybody home? Shalana the Woods Temptress with Horny the Bear, Smokey's cousin. Okay, turn that off. Oh yeah, turn it off. No, Chester, you said it. Do it on the floor. Beautiful stuff. Hey, that's all right. Gameplay, role play, it helps in a marriage after a little while. Turn the damn thing off. Turn it off.
JD, what do you think of this scene?
I love this scene because I don't think you can make this scene in modern times. And I know that, we're going to talk a little bit about the possible remake. Or did we touch on that already? But
We'll
you take
get
a
into
movie
that.
like this, and you put it into the context of when it came out, and you then realize like it's a time capsule. It exists for when it came out, for those of us that were alive when it came out, and it's nostalgia for us to enjoy it. But Horny the Bear, really? Would that fly in 2019?
I don't know. I'd watch it.
If think about it, if they did remake it, it wouldn't be that giant 80s camera that he had that
right.
You have time to get the tape back. Be like, oh, it's already posted on Snapchat or something.
Right. So we cut to Roman and Chet on the back porch, and Chet's laughing. He's like, so you said you'll be here the whole week? And Roman's just smiling, taking a drag out of his cigarette, and he's like, so you're an intelligent man. You make a good living. You have a good life. Why in the hell would you want to be in this plant-infested place like this and live like a barbarian for a week? Chet says this is beautiful country, and he wants his boys to have the same experience that he had as a kid. And Roman says, you know what I see when I look at a place like this? And then he goes on to talk about how it's underdeveloped and he'd do this and that. And then he asked what Chet sees. He's like, I see trees. I see trees. Roman throws a few more jabs at him and says, well, while the rest of us are probably going to die of heart attacks and strokes, the Chet Ripleys of the world just kind of stroll along life's path. And Chet laughs. He's like, wouldn't that be great to see a bunch of people you hate just drop dead? Roman asks what they're going to eat, and Chet says they're going to make some hot dogs, and Roman throws a phase like, no relative of mine's eating hot dogs for dinner. Pat, what were your thoughts on this scene here with Chet and Roman?
I thought it really set the tone of their relationship and how they're just complete opposites. The simple, just laid back guy to the everything has to be fancy, money, yin and yang of each other.
Yep, I love that. Now, interesting fact, as they're sitting there looking across the lake, you'll notice Roman and Chet are drinking out of some pretty cool collector cups here from Burger King. So Roman's drinking out of a Return of the Jedi Jabba the Hutt glass, and Chet is drinking from the Luke Skywalker glass from Empire Strikes Back. So if any collectors out there, this is kind of a cool thing to look for as you're watching the movie. Now, we cut to Buck and Ben. They're standing with their backs against the water here, and Ben says, do you sense the presence of an alien life form? Buck says, yeah, now that you mention it, I do. They turn and they see their red-headed cousins here. And then we cut to Roman. He's on the grill. He's cooking up some lobsters and talking some numbers with Chet. He feeds him some lobster at one point, and Chet says, well, easy money is money easily lost. And Roman's like, I can't believe how old-fashioned thinking you are. The ladies come out to check on the tails, and Roman says, the gourmet here wanted hot dogs. You know what those things are made out of, Chet? Lips and assholes. Chet's like, oh, I guess I like assholes. And Roman says, yeah, I like lips. And he kisses his wife and says he could market those lips. He'd make another $1 million. JD, this is probably one of my favorite lines from the movie here. What do you think about the hot dog line?
I always think of this line anytime I eat a hot dog and I realize I don't really know what's in what I'm about to eat. So I slather it with onions, and tomatoes, and relish, and celery salt. And I wish myself the best of luck because, we're lips and assholes and heart attacks away from just living the American dream.
Yeah.
But you're only putting mustard on that bad boy, right? No ketchup.
I put ketchup.
No ketchup.
I know. I'm a ketchup.
I remember that
ketchup only. Yeah.
Hey, but did you notice actually he doesn't kiss his wife? He kisses Chet's wife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sister-in-law.
Yeah, sister-in-law. That's a good catch.
Bottle that up and sell it as Yoo-hoo.
So next, Roman and Chet are arguing over the boat for tomorrow. Roman says they're getting a speedboat, and then Connie recommends the kids go outside and catch fireflies. Roman's like, yeah, don't you want to do that, girls? They're cute, their butts light up. And then they both scream, and the scene cuts out. Later that night, Chet goes around the furniture in the living room, and he starts turning off the lamps. And he says he has a story he's got to share with them, one that might help save their life. Let's take a listen to this scene.
No, this is a bear story. A true bear story. See, Connie and I honeymooned up to this very same lake.
Big spender.
We stayed at my uncle's cabin.
Uncle George?
Yeah, that's right. one night we were getting ready for bed, and we heard this terrible noise out by the trash cans. You remember? And I went downstairs to check it out, looked out the window, and there was the biggest, baddest bear in the North Woods.
Sure, Dad.
No, it's true. It's true.
This bear was over 8 feet high, with big white teeth, fangs, stained pink from whatever it killed before it got to our cabin. It was frightening. Frightening. The paws on this thing were immense. With big black claws. Razor sharp. Like Freddy Krueger. Worse. This wasn't a movie. This was happening. This was now. This was right in front of me. And all that separated me from that bear was a pane of glass.
Honey, maybe we shouldn't tell this story right now.
Mom, it's fine.
No.
It's fine.
I'm
It's
thinking about
fine.
nightmares.
No. They have to hear this. Like I say, it might save their life one day. Now, I saw that bear. It saw me. And it was hungry. Hungry for blood. Human blood. You see, once a bear gets a taste for blood, it craves it. It needs it. And it will do anything it can to get it. That bear had become a man-eater. Our eyes locked. My heart was pumping. I ran into the living room. I grabbed the shotgun off the mantel, turned around, and there was that bear right in the window. Its breath was fogging up the glass. And suddenly, it let out this god-awful roar. It started smashing in the walls. The pots and pans started rattling. And the walls started shimmering. And the floorboards started lifting. I knew then that it was either the bear or your mom and I. So I raised the rifle, I took aim, and I fired.
You wasted her?
No, Benny, a shotgun's not gonna kill a monster bear like that.
Well, what happened?
The buckshot shaved the hair clean off the top of its head. It ran off. We never saw it again. Oh, I hear from my uncle every now and then. And he'd tell us about the bald-headed killer bear that was roaming about the area. The bald-headed killer bear of Clare County.
Is she still around?
Oh, no. That bear's gone.
She may be out there. Crazy, bloodthirsty as ever. So when you go to bed tonight, if you hear a noise, whatever you do, don't look out the window.
Pat, what are your thoughts here on the bear story?
I thought the story was great because he set the mood already, turned all the lights off, and he had the poker ready to use as a gun. He had, what did he throw in there to make his drink? He had it all set up perfectly. He knew what he was going to do, knew when to make him jump. And then even when the flashback, his face when he sees the bear the first time, John Candy acted that whole scene out great. And then real quick, I'm sorry, I think go back this a little bit, but when you were talking about with the boat, I think that was a good scene too to look at because that's like another scene setting up of John Candy wanting to spend time with his boys on the platoon boat,
Yeah.
And Uncle Roman wants to get the speedboat, and he sees how his whole family just kind of goes against him. Yeah, sorry, Dad, speedboat.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather be cruising the lake on Suck My Wake? Yeah, no, it's great. And then I love and John Candy does an awesome job in this scene here, telling this story, because even just like not only his facial expressions, but just the way he delivers, like, my heart was thumping,
yep,
pump, pump, pump. Like, it intensifies like perfectly. Man, I wish I had an uncle that could tell a story like this. Like, that would have been cool. Now, after the scare here from Chet, the entire family goes to bed, and Chet goes to kind of check in Ben's room and tell him, he embellished, and they're fine, they're safe here. Roman sees what he's doing. He tries to do the same for the girls, but he's not real smooth at it at this point. In fact, I think he makes it worse because he's talking about his uncle, who it was some kind of like slaughterhouse story. Yeah. It just wasn't good for those little girls, and it ends with them just staring up at the ceiling at the end of the night, like, we're not going to bed.
It's like you can tell he cares about his girls.
Yeah.
But he has to, and he sees what Chet did, but he has to do it his way.
Yeah.
And that's the stern. Let me give you a fatherly story, even though it's 10 times worse than the bear story.
Yeah. Even the way he just delivers it, he's like, now, girls, let me tell you a little story here. Yeah, it's not smooth. So later there that night, as they're sleeping, we have the caption talking raccoons here. We're going through the trash, and one says, well, this is a shitload of hot dogs. And the other raccoon's like, you know what those are made out of? Lips and assholes. So we get the joke for a second time here. And then the next morning, everyone is waking up, and Connie's like, Chet, where are you? And we cut to Chet cleaning the trash. He's like, oh, God, these are rotten. He's going through all the hot dogs. And we have a quick scene here of Roman clipping some nose hairs, and he's asking his wife why Chet's kids look at him like he's Zeus, and mine look at me like I'm a rack of yard tools at Sears. In case, maybe if you spent more time with the family, put a cork in it, honey, I'm on a business call. He cuts her off right away. I love how just amazing this scene is, where she's trying to have a moment with him, but JD, he's having none of it. He tells her to put a cork in it. What do you think of this scene?
Well, I mean, sometimes people need to put a cork in it.
Sure.
I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes I'm listening to you talk, Kyle, and I'm like, gosh, put a cork in it. And from a serious standpoint, from a writing, focus, it does a great job of establishing who he is as a character and the foil that the missus poses against him,
right,
which allows us to see a lot of the underlying characteristics of who he is, and a lot of is what is being hinted at, and what will eventually come out is his downfalls and his shortcomings.
Right.
Because he knows the answer to why he isn't the great father to his kids, but we are, as an audience, witnessing it as a understated fact. It's not being just shoved down our mouth. It's like you want to just choke him and scream and be like, dude, stop just being a D-bag.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of shoving things down their mouth, Chet's at the hot dog stand next, and he's ordering 4 chili dogs and 2 plain dogs. Buck's like, Dad, that's 6 hot dogs. He's like, they're for everyone, plus I'm hungry. Okay? He tells Buck that he can go peruse the town, but when you get back, I want you to promise to me that we're going to spend some time together. This is about the men, the guys, the woods. I want to see you. And we cut to another scene here with Chet, who's now on the Suck My Wake speedboat, and he's trying to get it out of neutral, or I think he's trying to put it in reverse, and then Roman's like, you got it in neutral! And he accidentally drives the boat all the way back up the ramp here, which is great. And then we cut to Chet trying to give Ben some ski lessons here. And Roman's like, man, will you hurry up? And Chet eventually starts waving them off, like, give me a minute, I'm trying to talk to Ben here. And Connie says, oh, he said, let's go. And Roman just punches it, and we're off to the races here. Chet's holding on for dear life. Roman's taking him all over the lake. And I just love this scene here, because not only is just watching John Candy's facial reactions amazing, but at some point, Chet starts yelling, Roman, you bastard! And they take that as, he said, go faster. And then you see Roman just crank down the throttle and just tilt his head back, and he's like, ha ha! I just love this.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. And the best part is, when you were saying he was giving his youngest son the lesson. What happens? Okay, there's trouble. There's trouble. What do you do?
What do you do, man?
What do you do? You let go of the rings, man.
Yeah.
And then here he goes, he's fine, and you hear the kid, let go of the rings, Dad! He's just holding on.
Yes, it's hilarious. And that's so typical of like dad talk and like coaching in general. Like you'll tell them to do one thing, and then when you're in that moment, you forget everything. Yeah, this is great. Now, let's listen to the next clip here where Chet is complaining about Roman, and he's about had enough of him here.
What does it look like I'm doing? I am not taking any more Roman's crap. If you like him, you stay with him, because I'm through. I'm out of here.
Wait a minute. What happened that got you so crazy?
What happened?
Yeah.
Come on, what happened? Yeah. How about Roman dragging me over the goddamn lake? How about that for starters, huh? Not bad, huh? Well, have you seen my ass lately?
No, not recently.
Well, I'll be picking splinters out of it from now until the day I die.
Oh, honey, come on.
Oh, you find that funny? Yeah, that was hysterical,
No,
wasn't
it wasn't really funny, but because I love you.
God, thanks a lot.
Come on, what about the kids?
What about his kids? All right, let's talk about his kids. His kids, they're spooky, all right? I'm waiting for their heads to rotate around and vomit pea soup.
I mean our kids.
Our kids already do that.
Well, what about this father-son thing? You're gonna leave?
Pat, what'd you think of this scene?
So now he's packing his bags. He's like, he's had enough. He just got dragged all through the lake.
Yeah.
And his wife's just like, hey, it's okay. It's all right. Calm down. We're going to have some family time. It's going to be all good. And then he starts scrapping. He's like, I was getting ready to leave, honey. And you made me stay. You made me stay. He just getting ready to choke her out. But the best part was when she says, Roman made goat pizza. He goes, what'd you say? Roman made pizza? Big
man pizza?
A goat in there.
Big man pizza?
Big man pizza.
JD, do you have any idea what goat cheese pizza is? I've never heard of this.
I'm assuming it's a pizza with goat cheese on it.
Is it healthy? I don't know.
Imagine like a flatbread with a different kind of cheese. Pull your head out of your ass and
I hate it already.
Being cultured.
Mm-hmm.
I've had goat cheese before. I had it in history class in 8th grade. It wasn't bad. It tasted, I don't know if you like blue cheese dressing. That's what it kind of tasted like. It was
okay.
Kind of like blue cheese.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than American cheese, Kyle.
Well, I kind of like my pizza like JD likes his men, thick. So, I mean, anything flatbread's a no-go for me.
Slap some Kraft on that bad boy and we're good to go.
So after Connie is unable to stop Chet from leaving the trip, we cut to Wally bringing the girls to Roman. He tells Roman that he found the girls over by the old mine and they like to go over there and yell down the hole. And he tells them that he needs to take care of these girls. So I think that's a good point.
I don't want to tell you what the teenagers do down there.
Yes, God, how did I forget that line? That's a great one. So anyway, they make their way over to the lodge later that night, and we meet the oldest man alive, Mr. Tompkins. Chet enters the bar area, says, "Hey, Wally, how you doing?" Wally's like, the pants are riding up the butt, something fierce. We cut to the kids who are kind of laying all over Mr. Tompkins. They're trying to kiss him on the cheek. Chet's about to snap a photo, and Wally's like, they shouldn't be hanging all over him. Chet's like, why? What old man wouldn't want that? He's like, a dead one. So everybody freaks out. I mean, this was very Weekend at Bernie's, was it not, JD?
Oh, yeah, it totally was Weekend at Bernie's.
Watching this movie from last week again, as many times as I've seen this movie, I've noticed something I've never noticed before. While the kids are jumping on, gathering around them, and John Candy's getting ready to take the picture, the Wally's wife is in the background, like pointing to Wally, like trying to get his attention that this is going on. I never saw that before, and for some reason I noticed it this last. Like you can see her, like her face keeps dropping, and she's like pointing to him, and then that's when he shows up, like, "Oh, I don't like them kids hanging on him."
Oh my gosh. I've never noticed his wife in that scene. I have to go back and see that now.
Yeah. She's like, just look right past his left shoulder, and you'll see her with some other people, and she just starts pointing.
Oh, no. So we cut to Buck and Ben. They're at the pool hall, and Buck has his first encounter with a local girl, and he gooses her with the pool stick here. And then we cut back to Chet and the kids, and they're going for a bear sighting. Chet gets out. He throws out some candy bars to all the bears, and they come right up to the car. One even climbs on the hood to get that candy bar. I'm pretty sure these are 100 grand candy bars.
Yeah.
Pat, can you confirm?
Yeah, they were 100 grand. Yeah.
Okay. The 100 grand were never my thing, but were you ever a fan of the 100 grand candy bars?
Not really. Actually, I can't even tell you if I ever had one.
I think I had one maybe like during like Halloween. Somebody'd hand out like a fun size one. But I've never gone to a store and been like, I'll take a 100 grand bar here.
I've always been a nutrageous type of guy.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Nutrageous. Well played. Kyle, what's yours?
If I'm going chocolate, I'm going to go Snickers. If I'm going something sweet, it's always Skittles.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Skittles are a headache in a bag.
Maybe for you, not for me. It's more like a glorious in a bag.
He likes to taste the rainbow.
I do. I sure do.
Kyle likes to bend over and taste the rainbow.
God, of course you went there.
Skittles makes him wistful.
Yeah, they do make me wistful.
One of the things I like when the bears start jumping on the car is how, Chet's getting all nervous now, and he's like, boy, maybe we should get out of here. Yeah, Dad, yeah. He goes, I told you I loved you, right, son? Yeah, Dad, I love you too. You just drive off with the bears on the hood.
We were going to cut back to Buck, and he's meeting this local girl that he goosed with the pool stick. We find out her name is Cammie. She's not super excited to be talking to him. Eventually, she just tells him to save his breath, and she's not a tourist attraction. JD, from a writing standpoint, I don't know that this storyline really ever fully develops here. I don't know that it's totally necessary in this movie. What do you think?
It's not necessary. It's one of the things that I always chime in on anytime you're talking about a story and identifying what personal and relational developments actually add to the narrative. All too often, when you try to stuff something in to create extra scenes, they're not necessary, so they always feel superlative.
Right.
Or like it's like a hanging chad. It's like, I don't need this. It offers nothing to what we're driving towards, and this is one of those. And it's difficult because it is very heartfelt and meaningful in a lot of regards, but at the same time, is it needed? Mm-hmm. It's like when you order a hot dog, do you need to put ketchup on it, Kyle? Do you? You son of a bitch. The answer is no.
I don't need to, but I love to.
Okay, that's like nope, I'm not going to make my next comment.
Okay.
Just audience know I was going to make a Kyle masturbating with ketchup comment, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, take the high road.
Well, if we ever get to meet and we go out to eat, I'll make sure you get. I'll order for you off the kids menu so you get your ketchup hot dog.
Ooh, roasted.
Boom, roasted.
I felt the same way, and that's one thing I was going to bring up too. Was the whole thing with her? It wasn't necessary. I mean,
yeah,
I'd rather have seen more of Wally.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, I just think it's something like it's the 80s. Like I think it had good intentions, and maybe there's a lot of stuff that they cut out of the film to keep it at 90 minutes. And it just, this storyline just never fully develops. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
The only way it would have made sense if it was Great Outdoors 2. He goes back to see her next summer, but she's hooked up with some other guy.
Yeah. God, I wish there'd have been another one. So Chet and Buck go for a little ride on the rowboat here. He tells Buck that, one day you're going to be coming up here with your kids, and, I want to give you something. This is something my father gave to me, and now I'm giving to you.
Me, Dad.
What's that?
You're not going to kiss me, Dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, and it's a nice moment here, Pat, but I feel like this is another missed moment in this movie. Like, I thought this was going to be a better scene than it was watching it back.
I mean, I agree and disagree, because I felt like they set it up pretty good. How the whole time I want to spend time with the family. Hey, make sure you leave time for me and you later, Buck. Go ahead and run off now, but I really want to spend some time with you. And then he finally gets that moment. If I remember right, he was standing. Chet was already standing there, and Buck came walking up, and then he said, "Hey, let's go for a ride on the rowboat." And I feel like he had his moment. I think Chet felt like, no matter what happens on the rest of this trip, on the rest of this vacation, I got that few minutes alone with my teenage son, who's probably going to be going off to college soon. And I got to pass down a ring that was passed down to me.
like my father did. He had his moment. So I felt like it was valid.
Okay. Well, the next day, Buck has tracked down Cammy at the drive-in stand. She apologizes for being in a bad mood, but she meant what she said. And Buck says, well, how can you say that about me? You don't even know me. She tells him that she gets off at 8 o'clock and he can see her if he can find her. And then we're gonna cut to a montage here of Chet and the kids riding the go-karts and Roman's golfing at the range. It kind of goes back and forth. So eventually, Roman shanks a ball off the tee here, bounces off of a tree and hits Chet right in the face. And then we cut to the next shot here of the family on a horse ride, and Chet's on this small little nag here, and he's trailing behind, and Roman yells back, "You better not fall behind, or the Indians will get you." And Chet eventually has to get off the horse, and then he goes to, I guess the horse kind of bucks a few times, and then it takes off after he goes to get a switch from the tree. He's like, yeah, I'm really a nice guy. I don't like to do this to you. And he breaks off the branch, and the horse just takes off, and Chet yells, get back here, you son of a bitch!
That was great too. Like the horse is like giving all this attitude, and then sees the switch. You see his eyes just open. Bullshit, and he's just gone.
So the family is waiting at the stable here when Chet finally shows up, and Roman yells, "Hey trooper, where's that bald slapping nag you were riding?" Chet can barely talk. He's out of breath, and everybody's like, "You okay, Dad? Everything all right?" And Roman's like, "So you got hungry and had to eat the nag, huh?" So JD, two things. First, I love that Roman is constantly ripping on him. And two, can we talk about the amazing yellow outfit that Roman's wearing here?
Obviously, he's Roman Reigns, is he not? He's just reigning over everybody with his awesomeness.
I see what you did there. I like that.
Thank you. Did you? Because I know he's kind of like not everybody likes him, but I like his name.
Yeah, I did go to a show one time and start an "F-U Roman" chant on Monday Night Raw, so yeah. Nah, not my favorite.
You're not the only person.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not only does he reign over everybody, but Roman in the movie also thinks he's the big dog.
Yes.
There it is.
He's wearing a very loud outfit. I love it. So we're at the bar next, and Chet and Roman are drinking, and the guy with a skunk haircut shows up, and he sits down. His name's Reg. We have to listen to this scene. This is one of my favorites here.
Right. Who's handling our investments?
Well, my wife's got some egg money put aside, but she's a real bear. Won't give it up to me.
Yeah, well, I'll take her phone number. I'll change that. Believe me, that's what I do for a living. Investments is what I do.
How you doing? Well, it ain't raining. So that's good.
Yeah, I guess so.
You fellas met Reg?
No, I don't think so. How you doing? Roland Craig. Pleased to meet you. Chet Ripley. How do you do?
That's quite a hairdo you got going there, Reg. Gonna have a neo-skunk thing? Or?
Well, then what do you think? Well, he's got the hair. Well, you don't have to say it.
Well, his hair turned white because lightning hit him. Yeah. He's been struck by lightning. How many times is it now, Reg?
6 times. 66 times.
66 times. God, that's gotta hurt.
So Pat, he got hit 66 times in the head. What'd you think of this scene?
See, like this is like scenes like this would be I loved way more, even though they were only for a few minutes, compared to the whole love story they were trying to set up with Buck.
Right.
It's hilarious because like if you see old Reg running, you better go take cover because there's a storm. And then was it Roman once again just being Roman, ripping on him too, like, was that a skunk feet you got going there? Well, he got the hair.
Yeah, it's like Chet was like, "Come on, man, really? Him too?" Ah, gosh. And then it ends with probably my favorite quote. I say this more than probably any movie quote on the planet. Pretty much every time I have to go to the bathroom, Roman stands up and says, "Chet, go ahead and handle the drinks here. I gotta head to the John. It's time to introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake. I love it. So we cut to Connie and Kate. Kate is venting about how lonely it is being wealthy. And Connie's kind of rolling her eyes. And Kate says that the only pleasure she gets now is leaning up against the washer during the spin cycle. And Connie kind of perks up. She's like, that really work? JD, I don't know that we can actually confirm this here on this Three Dude podcast, but this seems logical, right?
I think so. They do it in Mad Men as well, so I won't want to put words into a woman's mouth or up her hoo-ha, but why not?
Well,
I mean,
you know, just like in Varsity Blues in your archives, remember? Just let
oh,
the
yeah.
do all the work.
Oh, gosh, that's true. There it is.
I was any white or white.
Well, if you guys are hungry, there's still a few hot dogs in there. Puke and rally. Okay. So we cut back to our love interest storyline here. Buck and Cammy are making out under the moon, and they're at the pool dock here. And then we cut back to Kate, and she's running out of the bedroom yelling, "It touched me!" Roman follows. He's like, "It's been touching you for 12 years, you never freak." She says, "Not you." And she points to his flying bird. He's like, Roman's like, "Big deal, it's a bird." Kanye's like, "Roman, it has ears." Buck yells, "Jesus!" And they all run outside. Chet decides he's going to handle things, and he goes back in the house and then turns right back around, and he looks at Roman and he's like, "It buzzed me. It's bigger than I thought. It's about a 2-pounder here." And then Roman's face, he's just like, wow. So they think of a big plan here. Pat, what do you think of this whole scene with the bat?
This was hilarious, and I feel like it had we see something similar to it later in a movie called Black Sheep.
Yes.
But
awesome.
Yeah. I like how, like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, this is our cabin, this is our vacation, and then Roman goes, "Well, aren't you going to take care of it, Chet? This is your cabin." And then he's like, "Well, if you're scared, I'll take care of it." And Chet's just like, "I'm not scared. I'm thinking. There's planning. There's a big difference between planning and being scared."
Yes, it's so good. And there's a couple things that happen during the whole bat scene that I just love. One is Roman asked if he's kissing it or calling it. And then at one point, Roman yells, "We got it!" And it sounds exactly like when he yells, "We got it" for Ghostbusters. Yep. I thought that was probably a bit intentional, would be my guess. But anyway, it's a good moment here.
I love the fact that they also just got completely dressed up. Like, which one was it? Was it Chet that looked like he was wearing, like, was it from what's the name of that?
I know what you did last summer. Oh, okay.
No,
nope.
They were the wicker, like, hat they had with the three storms came down.
Yeah, their outfits are amazing here. It's great. Yeah, so the next day, Buck goes to talk to Cammy, and they plan to meet later that night at the bait shop. And she says that she's kind of waiting for him to ditch her. And he says, "You have my permission to never speak to me again if I ditch you." They kiss again. He leaves. Again, these are total throwaway scenes. Now, we're out to eat later that night at the Lakeside restaurant. Interesting fact here, this restaurant used in the movie is called Ducey's Bar and Grill, which is in Bass Lake, California. Unfortunately, after the filming, it burned to the ground from a gas leak, and they had to rebuild it. But they do have posters and memorabilia all over the walls. So if you ever go in there, it's kind of a cool reminder of what that old restaurant would have looked like. Pat, if I ever make it to California, this is on my list of places to go. Now, I know you're from California. Have you been to this restaurant?
I have not. That's in Southern California.
Yeah.
And I'm in Northern, so you know what, though? I might have to check it out next time I go down there, because I was actually planning a trip down SoCal next year.
Okay. Well, when you do, report back. We gotta get that up here. So they all start to take orders here, and Roman wants to know about the old 96er. The waitress says, "Oh yes, that's our 96-ounce prime-aged beefsteak. And if you or any member of your party can finish it, you and your whole party eats for free." And Chet's like, "Oh, that's all right, I can try that." Roman asks if anyone's ever actually eaten it, and the waitress laughs, and she's like, "Oh no, not in my lifetime, not here." The chef brings out the steak, and it is a massive looking steak. I don't think this is actually 96 ounces, but it's a big old beast here. And we've got a nice long montage here of Chet just eating the steak. He starts off good. Then he starts to get the meat sweats. And then we have like little cuts back to Cammy checking her watch at the boat dock. Again, it means nothing at this point. At one point, I love Roman's actually listening to his stomach. And he's like, it's processing very nicely. We're doing good. Chet finally finishes the last bite, or so he thinks. And the chef's like, he's not done yet. He says, there's nothing on there but gristles and fat. And then the chef just smiles and then they cut back to Chet and he's like, oh no. Roman says, go ahead.
Roman's like, here, I get some dessert. If I get a dessert down, yes. I can throw in some hat shirts for the kids.
And then the scene ends with them leaving the restaurant with hats and shirts. So he got that dessert down him. JD, fun fact here, I actually own this shirt from the movie here. It's the exact one that they walk out in. One of my favorites. What do you think of this whole scene with Chet taking down the old 96er?
It reminds me of a time that me and my little brother Jesse decided that we were going to become competitive eaters. So we bought a crave case from White Castle, and we were like, this is what we're going to do. We are going to eat the hell out of 100 White Castle cheeseburgers. And we got sick as hell after 20 and regretted it in the morning. So I'm not cut out for this kind of competition. I don't know about either of you two. Do you have stories? I mean,
well, I won. Me and Ben did a Togo's pastrami challenge. It was a 2-pound pastrami sandwich. You had to eat it in a half an hour, and I got mine down in 24 minutes, and Ben got his down in 26. And then we did a 60 chicken nugget challenge on my YouTube channel.
Man, those, I can't even imagine. Like, I'll eat like 10 chicken nuggets from McDonald's, and I'm on the bathroom all night. Like, it's just, that grease is not good for you. Yeah, real white meat. Why is it pink? I don't get it. I did. They used to, when I was in high school, Hooters used to do the 50 wing challenge. And if you finished it, you got a photo on the wall. And I did complete the 50 and I ate hot wings, by the way. And I eat them all the way down to the bone. I'm not one of those guys that takes like 2 bites and then throws it away. Like, I finished that one. That drives me nuts.
I tell my wife that all the time. Look at all that meat you're wasting.
Yep. That's how you know you're a big man, when you're like, you know what drives me nuts? People not finishing their damn chicken wing.
Exactly.
Yeah. God. Buck arrives at the boat dock, and Cammy is nowhere to be seen. So we cut back to the house, and the raccoons have torn up the trash in the house. And they walk in, and Roman goes, oh, look at the maggots on that meat. And Chet goes, he starts to hurl. He goes in the bathroom. I love that everybody follows him into the bathroom, and then when he throws up, they all come running out.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, it's so funny how they all, like, because they feel bad. Oh man, he just ate all this food.
Yeah.
And I was like, where do you think he's gonna? What do you think he's running into the bathroom for? You know? And then, running the other way.
It's great. Now, the next morning, the guys have loaded up on the boat for some fishing. I love the part where they do the countdown to 3 and insert the hooks into the leeches, and they're all like, ugh. And then we flash to later in the day, and they're woken up from the pouring rain, and they are covered in leeches here. Pat, we've seen leeches before in movies like Stand By Me, but I think I really like it here in the great outdoors just because they're completely covered and totally passed out from a long night of eating. What do you think of this?
Yeah, that was... And then how they all looked at each other, they looked over, and just pointing at each one of each other like if that was different, but they all had to point to each one of themselves and scream instead of just taking the leeches off.
Yep. Now we got a quick shot of Buck trying to call Cammy, but she won't come to the phone at the drive stand. So we get back to Chet and Roman, who are going in. They're going to get into a pretty big argument here. Let's actually listen to this clip here.
Really not cold. Not at all.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Roman. Forgive me. Why don't you come over here and show me how to do it? You talk a great game. Come on over. Let's see a little action. After all, you know everything. You know exactly what to do at any given moment.
Eddie, you were absolutely right. We should have gone to Europe. Or maybe even Haiti. Or Antarctica. Or the Dead Sea. Would have had a lot more fun.
Is that a fact? Well, nobody forced you to come up here, buddy boy. As a matter of fact, I don't remember anybody inviting you up here. Do you remember inviting him? I sure as hell don't.
And what exactly is that statement supposed to mean?
You figure it out for yourself.
No, you specify. You clarify for me, all right? Just as a common courtesy, if you don't mind.
You know damn well what he means.
I think they're trying to say that we're not welcome.
Aha! What did I hear? We've got a bingo! You did figure it out, Kate.
So, now it's all starting to ooze out. It's very interesting, isn't it, Katie?
Yeah, very.
Especially since we threw aside our plans, and we had a great European vacation plan. Threw aside our plans to come up here to show these deadasses how to start to learn to have a good time. Thanks for ruining my vacation, Ripley.
What was that? Ruining your vacation? Is that what you said? Oh, come on. I don't believe I heard you say that.
You'd better believe it.
Don't push it, Roman.
You ain't even seen pushing yet. You know the trouble with you, Ripley? You wouldn't know a good time if it fell out of the sky, landed on your face, and started to wiggle.
Oh, you got an awful lot of nerve, Roman. A lot of nerve.
It served me well. I'm the one with the Mercedes.
By the way, is it paid for?
You jealous? Chester?
Don't call me Chester. You call me that one more time, you're gonna go home with a dent in your forehead.
Oh, yeah, that'll be the day.
Would you like one to match his?
Hey, take it off. You want to go right now?
Dad. No one's denting anybody.
Thanks, Bucky.
Oh, bite the big one, Uncle Roman.
Hey, don't talk to adults that way.
Why not?
Because it's rude.
Oh, blow it out your ass.
So JD, first off, blow it out your ass. And second off, I really think this kind of sets up the storyline to this movie. What would you think of this scene?
It really does. I think you bring up a great point. Obviously, blow it out your ass and out your front and out your sides, because screw you, I hate you. But it's a great testament to like sort of the dynamic between the two of them, and you really get to dive into their personalities and their character development in a lot of ways that is sort of organic to the story and who they are.
Yeah,
no one is gonna blow anything out each other's ass.
I love the best line is Ben. He's like, "While you're at it, why don't you blow the whole family out your ass?" And just they drop that line so many times. We have a shot here of Skunkhead Guy, and he's just staring at the sky as the storm's brewing. Roman and his family are packing up to leave next, and Roman comes in to talk with Chet one more time. This is a pretty emotional scene here. Let's listen to this clip as well, as Roman tells a story about how he overheard Chet at the wedding.
Hey, look, I was picking my moment.
You were picking your nose.
Yeah, there's no mystery here, Chet. I know how you really feel about me.
Do you?
Yeah. And I knew that if I was ever to give you something, that you'd figure there'd be strings attached.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, that's a fact. At our wedding, you were in the John, Kate and Connie's dad. You were talking. Do you happen to remember the substance of that conversation?
No, I don't.
Yeah, well, I do. It's one I'll never forget. Because I heard you say, and I quote, that Roman Craig is a crooked son of a bitch. The next time you stab somebody in the back, Chester, you better check under the stalls for feet. You know, you may think I'm made out of armor and nails, man, but I'm just like any other human being. And when I get cut, it hurts. And that cut me. And I hurt.
Roman, I'm sorry. I had a lot to drink that night. And I really don't remember saying that. But if you said I did, then I must have. I apologize to you both. It was a terrible thing to say.
Look, I don't hold grudges and I don't have any hard feelings. To show you I'm the kind of a guy that can forgive and forget, well, I'd still like to offer you a piece of that investment.
Sweet.
I don't know what to say, Roman. I feel like a real idiot. What exactly is this thing again?
It's $25,000. What's your cash position?
It isn't 25,000. That's an awful lot of money.
Well, can you get it?
I think I can make an arrangement or two at the bank on Monday, if that's okay.
Hey, look, whatever you want to do. If you want, you can write a check now for as much as you can cover. I'll make up the difference, and we'll square it away on Monday.
If that's okay with it. Is your checkbook in the person?
Yeah?
Great, okay. Then that's fine.
Pat, what'd you think of this scene?
Once again, this is just Dan Aykroyd with some great acting. He throws this whole emotional story, and then you think I'm tough, but that cut me, man.
That cut me.
Yeah, that cut me, man. Just like that, and right away here comes Chet, because he's as much as he finally let all his emotion of being pissed off at Roman out. He's still like, wait a minute, I would never do something like this on purpose, you know. So he right away felt all apologetic.
Yep, and then that's when Roman puts the bite on him. He's like, to show that I'm the type of man that can forget and move on, I still want to cut you a piece of this deal. And Chet's like, all right, yeah, what are we talking about here? And he ends up writing him a check to Roman. Roman says he'll cover the rest when they can get it. And they leave on good terms with the family. He gets in the car, the kids load up, Kate gets in, and she's talking about how impressed she is to be able to put everything aside and really help them out. And, you're great with money, and I love that about you, but, that's a lot of money for them. That's probably Buck and Ben's college fund, I would guess. Roman just kind of smiles and then eventually slams the brakes, and he's like, I have to go back. So, JD, this is a long scene here, just to kind of break it up a little bit. What do you think of Roman? I mean, God, that takes some nerves to your own relative, take money from them when you know darn well that that's probably half a year's salary.
It definitely takes balls. It takes something of some gumption, which I think a lot of the story and a lot of the narrative between the characters sort of is building up to sort of establish. And I feel like it's probably a much more relevant storyline, way back when this movie came out in 2019. You can't ask people for money. Kyle, can I borrow some money?
Absolutely not.
I could use about $2.50.
I'll give you 25 cents.
It's $3.50, isn't it?
$3.50.
Yeah.
$3.50. There it is.
So we cut back to the house, and Roman confesses that it was all a scam. He's broke. He's bankrupt. He's busted. He says that they were living well beyond their means. He says, Chet, I'm full of shit. I haven't been trading in 2 years. And he goes to work now, but he goes to work with a runner's jacket and he fetches coffee. He says that he would have told him the truth, or he would have told his wife the truth, but she would have never let him come up here and put the bite on Chet and Connie. And then he confesses that the story at the wedding was completely made up as well. And then we cut to the skunk guy getting struck by lightning for the 67th time in the head. And then we also see the girls have left the car and they're kind of wandering out through the woods and they've lost all power to the house. Roman tries to use his lighter. He's like, $110. The thing doesn't even work. Chet lights up. He goes, 70 cents. Kate asks where the girls are, and then we'll take another break here to kind of break this up a little bit. Pat, what do you think of this scene so far?
I like how, the wife right away, you don't think I'd understand? I would understand. It's like he doesn't get his kids. He doesn't get his wife. Doesn't give them enough credit. And then the way he just kind of, and Chet, that story I told you about at the wedding, and he's just like, right away, you can see the sorrow on his face. Yeah, I made it up. Like, it wasn't like nothing. I made it up. And you what? Like,
yeah. You what? Like, no, we cut to the skunk guy right away, which was perfect.
And it's like that sorrow to furious in like a snap of a finger.
Yep. Now we pick back up we see the girls going down the mine shaft and they slide down into the water. Chet and Roman leave the cabin to go find the girls, and they are finally able to find them after the girls hear them yelling their names. They yell for help, and it's coming from the mine. Roman slides down after a pep talk from Chet. Chet tells him he won't blow it. He's like, you can do it, Roman. They're your children. Be their father for the first time in their life. Be their father. And he's like, they're your kids. So he slides down after him. Chet's going to go find some rope. But as Roman gets down there, he notices they're not exactly safe in this area. There's boxes of dynamite all over the place. So he decides to put the girls on his back and climb back out of the mine. He manages to get to the top and he takes the girls back to the cabin. But as he was about to start climbing, we see the bald-headed bear coming out of his sleeping area. So he finally gets out. Roman and the girls take off. Chet arrives back with the rope. He tosses it down. The bear grabs it and he starts to pull up with all of his might. Just starts dragging it. Got it wrapped around the tree. He finally gets all the way to the entrance. Kind of falls to his face. And that's when he sees the bear and not Roman. So, JD, things are about to pick up here as we get towards the end of the film. What do you think of this part?
We're definitely introducing Mr. Thick Dick to the urinal cake in a metaphorical sense, are we not?
Yeah, I'll buy that for $1.
Hey-o.
But I won't give you $1. Now, so Chet yells, "A bald-headed killer bear!" Or, sorry, a bald-headed bear! And he just takes off running through the woods. The bear's giving chase. It's hilarious. I mean, it's totally goofy to see the bear chasing after him, like nipping at his butt. But we get back to the cabin and we see Roman and the girls have made it. They're kind of dried off by this point. And Chet comes in the door. He's like, "Woo, woo, big, woo, big bear. No, true, big bear chase me. Big bear chase me." And before he can explain what's going on, the bear busts down the door and stomps on top of him. This is probably my favorite GIF of all time, by the way. I use this all season long during the bear season. So Chet says, "Get off of me, you big son of a bitch." And the bear growls and everyone kind of scurries and hides from the bear. And Roman has a poker that he thinks is going to help kind of fend off the bear. He looks at him in shock because he stands up on his hind legs and he's every bit as tall as Chet describes him earlier in the story. And just his facial reaction to that bear, he's like, "Whoa."
That was the greatest, that face he made.
Yeah.
It's no sound or nothing, and the way they kind of angled it as he did it, like to show that the height of the bear, and he's
Chet finally manages to scramble back to his feet and kind of put the door back on. He's like, big bear chased me. And again, the door busts down. And this time it's Wally. And he's got a lamp shotgun. And Chet's like, "What are you going to do with a goddamn lamp?" And Wally says, "Yeah, but it's loaded." So Chet grabs the gun. He aims it right at the bear's butt and blows the hair right off of it. And now he is the bald-headed, bare-assed killer bear. JD,
screaming on the way out, and the fact that he plugged the lamp in, there's a shotgun lamp he plugged it in before he fired it.
It doesn't make any sense why they plugged in the lamp. But JD, what do you think of the end of this scene here?
Oh, it's fantastic that he's bald on both ends. He's kind of like you.
Not cool.
Or no, you're reverse bald, are you not? You've got the hair on the booty, but not on the outside.
I don't know what I am.
Why wouldn't I know any of this?
I don't know. It makes me wistful. Yeah, I think I just love this whole scene. It's amazing. Pat, what did you think of Chet blowing the hair off of him?
Was it the Bucks is like, "Whoa, you shot him in the." They don't even say ass. They cut it, I think, right there, and the sound, like I said, the sound that bear made the whole way out, and then they just show the top of the trees, and he's just.
I mean, like I don't know what effect they used, but like when he shot him, like you could see the hair just like it's like it was on strings. It just like shoots up in the air, and then all you hear is like whoa, and then
oh boy.
How about the scene though, real quick too, when before he shoots the bear, when he has Roman has the poker and he's trying to hold it in the bear's mouth.
Yes,
you just tell how bad that animatronic look, or what you can tell it was like half a puppet or something.
Yeah,
like it went from a bear, live looking bear moving around, which was, by the way, I don't know if you know this, his name was Bart the Bear.
Bart the Bear, nice.
Yeah, but like all of a sudden, like when they got that close up, it's like the bear had no emotion in its face. It was just moving a head up and down.
Gosh. Well, they're all packed up and heading for home. We're going to cut back the Buck one more time at the boat dock, and he's kind of talking to himself. Cammy shows up for one more kiss, and that's pretty much the end of that storyline. Roman and Chet shake hands, and Roman says, "You're a good man. You're the best." Chet says, "You're not so bad yourself." Roman tells him, I'll race you home. And Chet's like, race you home? Why would he race me home? He lives all the way out in Oak Park. And then we see Connie walk past him and she's like quickly packing the car. And she's like, it's just until he gets on his feet. And she's like, hurry, if he beats us home, he's going to get the good spot in the garage. And then Buck comes over, thanks his dad for a great trip. They give a little handshake here. And Chet tells him to get in the car. We got to beat Uncle Roman home. And then we hit with the old 1, 2, 3, 4. And we get to the dance scene and the awesome theme song here for the movie. Pat, what are your thoughts on the ending of the movie?
I thought the way they ended with that whole dance scene, I thought that was perfect. It was like, was it necessary? Was it necessary? Not necessarily, but it fit perfectly in there somehow. Just everybody, because it was like a fun movie. That's what they were doing at the end. They're just having a fun time. Yep. And Dan Aykroyd was cutting up a rug.
I'd like to go out to a bar with Dan Aykroyd sometime. He looks like a good time. But yeah, I agree. Like, but I mean, it's such a better scene. Like, what would have been better? Like a black screen and rolling credits? Like, this is great.
I thought that was perfect for it.
Yeah.
And that other scene too, right before that, when he's sitting there with his son trying to get that last moment of staring off into the woods, and then hurry up to get in the car. Uncle Roman, we gotta beat your Uncle Roman home.
Now, if this was today, you know that they would have been like, all right, this movie made $50 million. We doubled our money. We're doing a sequel, Great Outdoors 2, in Chicago with Roman living with them.
Yeah.
The hijinks continue. Like, it should have happened. It never did. But man, JD, hard to believe this movie's 31 years old now this year. How do you think The Great Outdoors has held up over time?
Oh, it's fantastic. But I will say, I think that it's better suited for people of our generation. I would be curious to some of our younger listeners, if you've never seen it before, maybe you saw it when you were very young and are rewatching it now in your teens, what do you think about it? Because this really perfectly encapsulates Midwest living in, the late 80s, 90s, long before the world has become what it is. And it, for me, and I know for you, Kyle, and I'm assuming same for you, Patrick, this movie holds up like gangbusters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say so. Okay, let's get into a little controversy here. On April 27th, 2017, Universal Pictures announced that Kevin Hart, Nia Long, Yari Shahidi, China Ann McCain, and Sean Cavanaugh would be starring in a reboot of the film The Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
With Michael DeLuca producing. Pat, what do you think about that?
I already don't. No, I'm like, I feel like it's a movie that doesn't need to be remade.
Right.
And without trying to make this sound bad, it's like when they try to remake movies, and they want to try to make it more hip or whatever, so they have to put certain certain cast.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound bad with that, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just like, it's perfect the way it was. To me, that's like, yeah, it just doesn't need to be remade, because it's not like, well, I don't even think Ghostbusters should have been remade, but like the way Ghostbusters was this huge movie, so you could see someone wanting to remake it.
Mm-hmm.
Great Outdoors was what it was, and to me, it's just something that sits in time. And like I said, you're going to try to update it. Everything. It's just, I think that movie also fit perfectly because of the time it was filmed and took place, without the cell phones, without the, because now what it's going to be? It's going to be it's going to be one of those movies where we're trying to get our kids to enjoy nature, but they're too stuck into their phones. That's exactly what they're going to make the movie about.
Yeah, they did that to Vacation. It was terrible. Let's play. Let's be board members of Universal. Let's scrap the Kevin Hart idea. If we had to remake the movie, what are two actors that you think could pull off the Chet and Roman roles? I'm gonna throw out Jack Black as Chet.
Ooh.
I was just okay, Jack Black. Maybe even Kevin James.
Kevin James wouldn't be bad. Yeah, I guess maybe Adam Sandler gets his hands on it. Happy Madison production, I could see that.
I feel like he would keep it,
Here you go. If it was a Happy Madison production and Adam Sandler's not in the movie, you got Kevin James as Chet Ripley, David Spade as Roman.
Disagree.
No?
Yeah, I don't know if David Spade can play that one. I like David Spade. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
Let me see. Who would be a good Roman? That's the question.
That's a tough one.
When I hear this, and these are two actors that I don't necessarily like and would not want to watch them in the remake, but Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen, I think, would fit the roles well.
Oh, gosh. No, not Seth Rogen.
Did you see
I don't like Seth Rogen, but imagine him in Dan Aykroyd's role. He could pull it off.
Okay.
Good. James Franco maybe in Roman's role.
I like that better.
Bill Hader.
But now we're cooking with fire, motherfuckers.
Bill Hader would be good too.
Yeah, I don't know if he could pull off he could probably pull off Roman.
Hader and Will Forte.
Keanu Reeves. He could pull off anything.
Come on. He could pull off both roles.
Whoa.
He would play every part in the movie, and it would be a fantastic film.
Keanu Reeves in The Great Outdoors, all 8 roles. Yeah, this is a movie that needs to just be left alone. In fact, and I'll just go on record now, just anything that John Hughes wrote, just leave it alone. Let the man rest. His movies are not for the 2019s. They were for the 80s. They should be left in the 80s and put in a time capsule and released every 10 years with a new Blu-ray special edition. That's how I feel about it. So, Universal, don't do it. You're going to lose a ton of money if you listen to this. It's a bad idea.
The only way I can see them making it, if they did like a sequel, and it was like Buck going back and with his he's a single dad now with his kid, with his son, and he reconnects with him. That way, at least it made that whole love story worth something.
The only way you get me on board with this in any fashion is if Chris Candy, John Candy's son, who looks exactly like him, who is an actor, plays the role of Buck. I'll consider it. And you have to bring back Dan Aykroyd as good old Uncle Roman.
If they remake that, they gotta have Dan Aykroyd play Wally.
Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. But he has this conehead voice. Over here. Just, now maintain low cones. That's
from
a movie.
The lake. We're from the lake.
I was listening to a podcast and they had gone to the Ghostbuster convention out in California, and they did a photo op, and Dan Aykroyd was in the back, and they were trying to figure out what they should do with the chair. And the girl who was telling the story was like, I didn't want the chair. I asked him to take it away. And Dan Aykroyd from the back goes, bring in the chair. And she goes, gosh, that's Conehead. It sounded, so apparently that's like his natural voice, which really makes me happy. Pat, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It's always a good time to have you. Go ahead and plug your podcast. Let our listeners know where they can listen to you, where they can follow you.
Yeah, thank you. That's always a pleasure being on here. Paranormal Pativity Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, IGTV, and Twitter at ParanormalPat64. And you can find the podcast where you can find the Back in Time podcast. But I just recently got added to iHeart Radio. Yeah. Yes. So you can find it all those, just searching Paranormal Pativity Podcast.
Yeah, I always forget to mention IGTV. We are actually on IGTV as well. I haven't looked in the iHeart. We got to do that. But yeah, as always, you guys can subscribe to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, YouTube, and IGTV. You can follow us at Back in Time Pod, Twitter, Instagram. We're up on Facebook. You can follow me at KAutry29. You can follow JD at Unjust Justin. But for now, we are out of time. Time to jump in the Suck My Wake boat, punch it as I pull JD across the lake, and we'll return back to present day. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Time to put Mr. Thick Dick to the urinal cake because I have to pee so bad for the last 60 minutes.
Thanks for holding it.